So I want to talk about deviance again from these other two um, sociological perspectives, specifically social conflict theories and symbolic interactionist theories. And there's another video where I'm talking about functionalist theories, and particularly Robert Merton's strain theory. So one of the things that stands out to me about the social conflict theories and the symbolic interactionist theory is really this question of who gets to decide what is deviant. So let's start with social conflict theories. There's a concept that we get through social conflict theories called the power elite. And we get this term from C. Wright Mills, the same person where we got symbolic interactionism. And the power elite is considered to be a small group of wealthy and influential people at the top who have all the power and resources. So you can consider the power elite to be wealthy executives, politicians, celebrities, captains and admirals in the military. And I don't know military rank, so I'm kind of making that up. But really what I'm saying is people at the top, right? You're considering that these are the people who are the most influential. They've got the most access to the resources. They've got the most power in the positions that they're in. And celebrities are part of that. Even like really large celebrity like social media influencers. What we're saying is that they're in a position to sort of their opinions and what it is that they want is important, or the ways that they are in positions to make decisions that affect other people, because they have access to national and international, and in some cases where it matters, local and regional power. The rules of society tend to be stacked in their favor. And the reason why is because they're the ones that's making the decisions. They're the ones that have a sense of, the direction that they think things are going. Even when you think about like which administration is in power in the White House, or which political party is in power in the Senate and the House of Representatives, it's their agenda. Like they are in power, they are in the position to make what it is that they want to have happen the way that they want it to happen. They hold the power and they hold the access to the resources to do that. We tend to like to think in some ways that there's a certain amount of manipulation, maybe even a bit of maniacal manipulation, that it's manipulating the rules of society in order for them to stay on top. And, there's some truth to that, but it doesn't have to be maniacal. Again, if I am in power because I won the election, for instance, or because I can buy what it is that I want or be in control of whatever it is that I want, then of course I want to maintain my position. Of course I want to make things go the way that I think that they should go. If I am, Republican and I am currently the president, then I'm going to push my policies. That just makes total sense. So it's not exactly this sort of maniacal hidden secret kind of thing. We like to think about it that way, but it's just the way that power and access to resources work. The reason why that's important for social conflict theorists, particularly when we think about what deviance is because remember that deviance is anything that violates society's norms and expectations as to what is expected of people. But who gets to decide or sort of push or really affirm what those norms are? And the question is there a group of very particular powerful people, actual powerful people, who get to determine what is deviant to society, what is expected of society, and what is deviant to society? And if they actually have some a vested interest in maintaining their position and power politically, in business, or whatever it is that put them in their position, because they actually want to stay in position, then they're more likely to believe that anything that threatens their position is deviant. If I am conservative in my ideas about what should be taught in education systems, for instance, and I believe that something is the case, that's my policy. And if you do anything that goes against that, I'm going to consider or support policies or put things in place that says the other thing is deviant. That's not what's expected around here. But ultimately, when we talk about from the social conflict perspective, what is the role of deviance? In this case, we're saying, or the accusation, if you will, is that there's a group of powerful people who get to make decisions about what's deviant at any particular time, because they get to decide what should be and therefore what should not be. When we talk about the perpetuation of a society that is feeding to the powerful, or feeding to the celebrity, or feeding into the hands of whoever has the power at the particular time, there's quite a bit of truth in that. What we accept or don't accept, what we encourage or don't encourage, tends to sometimes fall into the hands of who those most powerful people are, especially because some of those most powerful people are also managers and owners of mass media distribution networks and news and magazines and newspapers, like those kinds of things. And you remember that one of the things that I said, when we were talking about crime, some of those types of crime you can look into in your textbook, the distinctions between like violent crime or nonviolent crime, corporate crime versus hate crime and street crime. There's this sort of idea that when we think about crime, or we're imagining crime, we imagine street crime, not sweet crime, like things that happen in corporate suites, things that happen sort of like white collar crime versus blue collar crime. Even our imagination of what is deviant or not tends to also fall within that sort of power elite, or this expectation of the power elite. We don't tend to think that they are capable of doing deviant things because we look to them for our instruction about how we're supposed to be, right? Another sort of idea about who gets to define what deviance is, I think you can think about that when we talk about the symbolic interactionist perspectives in deviance. And in symbolic interactionism, one of the things that we might do is distinguish between primary deviance and secondary deviance. In your book, primary deviance is when there is a violation of norms that doesn't result in any long-term effects on a person's self-image or their interactions with others. So that can be something like getting a speeding ticket. I was driving to work today, driving to school today, drove way too fast down one of these roads, got stopped by the police, and I got a speeding ticket, right? That is deviant. It's very much against the formal norms. It's very much against the law. You have committed a crime by speeding. And in so doing, you got a formal negative sanction, you got a speeding ticket, right? Are you deviant? Yeah, you did a deviant thing, but it doesn't exactly have this sort of long-term effect on your personhood, your self-image, or even the ways that people see and think about you. Your self-concept is not affected so much by the fact that you performed this deviant thing and you were even sanctioned for this deviant thing, but we consider it sort of just a primary deviance. You're still okay in society. You might even do it again. You might even get another ticket again, but it's still not really affecting your self-concept or your image, your self-image to others. On the other hand, secondary deviance is when there's some deviant behavior and a person's self-concept and behavior might begin to change after those actions are labeled as deviant by members of society. It's almost as like, a person that says, every time I drive down the street, you give me a speeding ticket. I did it last week. I did it this week. You just gonna give me a speeding ticket all the time anyway. Well, okay, then I'll just be a speeder. I'll just be the speeding ticket person. That's what you want to think of me? Okay, I'll just be deviant. I get speeding tickets. That's what I do. It's almost to say, if you're gonna think that I'm deviant, then okay, I'm deviant. I'll just be, every time I come in here, you say something to me about me being too loud. Well, I'll just be the loud person. Doesn't matter if I was being loud or not. You just decided that I am. So I'll just be the loud person. I'll just be the rebellious person then in this place. There's no more need, if you will, for me to try to stay within this box or manage my behavior or try to be quieter. You're going to treat me like I was being loud and rude anyway. So it's the idea that this deviance, your behavior, has started to creep into your identity. It starts to creep into your self-concept. You start to internalize what that means, and you kind of expect that other people are going to do such a thing. So remember, we were talking about statuses, and you all have multiple statuses. We all have a status set, but there might be like one master status, that one status that we are known by to others around us. To be a deviant could be one of those master statuses. You simply expect that I'm going to be this way, even if I did that one time or two times or something. It is somehow now incorporate it into who I am, the way that you identify me, and maybe even the way that I identify myself. So primary deviance is a violation of norms that doesn't result in any long-term effect on an individual's self-image or self-concept or their interactions with others. Secondary deviance is when a person's self-concept or behavior might begin to change after his or her actions are labeled as deviant by members of society. Okay, that's what you think I am, then that's where I'm going to be. We get this concept of labeling theory in the same way. Labeling theory is concerned with the ascription of deviant behavior to another person, right? Again, I am now just labeling you a deviant. I'm labeling you anything, a troublemaker. I'm labeling you bad at math. I'm labeling you as, a troublemaker. I'm labeling you as good at math, right? It doesn't have to even be negative. The idea in labeling theory is that there's something about who you are, the reaction to your behavior, or even a reputation that precedes you that puts you in a position to be ascribed a label and expected to sort of just live up to it. And in some ways, when we think about secondary deviance and then the labeling theory that sort of works in that same idea, is that in some ways it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If your older brother or your older sister went to the school that you're at before you and they were bad in math or they had a hard time with math and you've got that same math teacher, then if that person sort of treats you because of the preceding reputation that comes, you're such and such's little brother, or you're such and such's little sister, and they had a really hard time with math, and they never really paid attention. If you assume that I am going to be that way, then maybe you don't take me seriously when I ask for help. Or maybe you don't call on me when I raise my hand because I have the right answer, because you just assumed that I'm not going to have it. The problem with the labeling theory, or a problem with labeling people in this way, and in this case today we're just talking deviance, but it happens alongside everything, is that sometimes what you create is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you call me a deviant enough, then I'm probably going to just accept it and act deviant. That's what the theory says. You're not going to think anything differently of me. Even when I'm trying to be quiet, you're going to find some reason with me being quiet, because apparently today is the day that we're supposed to participate and be noisy or have something to say. But no, I don't want to do that either, right? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in that ultimately I do become the deviant. That does become part of my identity. It does become who I am. You might think that of me. Other people might think that of me. And importantly, I might even start to think of myself in that way. It's self-fulfilling because you've ascribed this thing to me. You've labeled me as this thing, either because you saw a behavior and labeled it that way, or it could be a reputation that I might not even have anything to do with, for instance. Maybe it preceded me because of somebody else, or because of the way I look. You just assume that's how it's going to be. But if you label me as such, then you start to treat me with those expectations. And again, we tend to talk about that in terms of its negativity, but it doesn't have to be. It could be positive. If you think that I'm good in math, then you might give me extra attention because you think that I need the attention and I want to, support you. The way that we sort of push girls into creative things and push boys into problem solving things. We create these self-fulfilling prophecies where girls are more likely to major in things like psychology and English and other humanities and the arts, and boys are more likely to major in things like engineering or mathematics or those kind of hard sciences. Sometimes because we create those expectations and then we feed into them and we thereby create the self-fulfilling prophecy. So labeling theory allows us, because of what we understand about primary and secondary deviance, we can understand the labeling theory sometimes in that way. But it's just the symbolic interactionist perspective, if you will, in the same way like social conflict theorists, if you will, that really focuses on what role people in the society itself or people in a powerful position, either celebrities and people with money and in powerful roles and in the government, for instance, or even the teacher or the principal in your school, they have a lot of power to sort of decide what is okay and accepted and what is deviant. And then that judgment of you can sort of put you in your place. Okay, that's it. Have a good day, and thanks for listening.